Although it would be nice if everyone who applied to medical school could get in on their first try, the reality is that more than half of all premeds who apply each year fail to get a single acceptance. If you find yourself in this situation, it's easy to get discouraged and lose hope. However, you shouldn't give up on your dream. Many students have been in your shoes and gone on to become successful physicians. That being said, you can't do the same thing you did before and expect a different result. Reapplying to medical school after a failed cycle requires a significant change in approach. Here are 8 mistakes to avoid when reapplying to medical school. Dr. Jubal, medschoolinsiders.com. The first mistake is not improving your application. One definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you apply to medical school and fail to get a single acceptance, then objectively, there are weaknesses in your application. It's crucial to identify these weaknesses and work to improve them before reapplying. Suboptimal hard components, namely a low GPA and/or MCAT score, is a common reason that premeds fail to get into medical school. As such, this should be the first place you look when considering how to improve your application. Although increasing your GPA once you're at the point of applying to medical school can be difficult, in some instances, it's possible. Additionally, completing a post-bac or special master's program with strong grades can show admissions committees that you can handle the rigors of medical school. That being said, you can only change your GPA so much. With each subsequent semester, your GPA becomes increasingly set in stone and harder to change. We discussed this more in our How to Get into Medical School with a Low GPA video, link in the description. Although trying to increase your GPA can have diminishing returns, retaking your MCAT can be another great way to bolster your application. That being said, the decision to retake your MCAT should not be taken lightly. If your MCAT score was below average for the schools you applied to, you should strongly consider retaking it or applying more broadly. However, if your MCAT score was average or above average, or you're uncertain about your ability to improve upon your score, you may want to focus your efforts elsewhere. Take a look at every aspect of your application, including your extracurriculars, personal statement, secondaries, and letters of recommendation. Identify any potential weaknesses and consider how you can improve upon them. After you've identified your weaknesses, be realistic with how long it'll take to overcome them. This brings me to the next mistake, which is reapplying when you aren't ready. Although the idea of waiting another year to start medical school can be disheartening, it shouldn't drive you to reapply before you're ready. It doesn't matter if you're applying for the first time or the 4th time, you should always strive to submit your application within the first few weeks of application season. The longer you wait, the lower your chances are. If you have the time and resources to improve your application by the time applications reopen, then go ahead and reapply. However, if your weaknesses need considerable time to be addressed, consider delaying your application until the following year. Even though taking a gap year can feel like it's adding more time to an already long training process, it can be a smart and worthwhile decision. Applying to medical school is an expensive and time-consuming process, so it's best to minimize the number of times you need to apply. A gap year can allow you the necessary time to improve your MCAT or GPA and bolster your application with additional extracurriculars and clinical experience. Mistake number 3 is applying to the wrong schools. Choosing which medical schools to apply to during your second run is incredibly important. While you should still choose medical schools that fit your personal needs and goals, you should also be realistic about which schools will be more likely to accept you. Although you can certainly reapply to some of the medical schools you applied to before, you need to make sure that you've improved your application enough to be a competitive applicant. As a reapplicant, you should also expand your list of medical schools. Whereas we recommend first-time applicants to apply to at least 20 schools to be safe, we recommend that reapplicants apply to at least 25 to 30 schools. You should also limit the number of reach schools and include more attainable schools as an added layer of security. Take time to research these programs using our free medical school list generator, link in the description. The next mistake that premeds make when reapplying to medical school is not managing their time properly. When it comes to medical school applications, proper time management is crucial. Medical schools accept students on a rolling basis. This means that they review, interview, and accept applicants as they come in. If you wait until later in the season to submit your application, you'll already be behind compared to your competition. Time management is also key for your secondary applications, which should be completed within 2 weeks of receiving them. Remember, as a reapplicant, you'll be applying to more medical schools this time around. This means you'll need to allocate even more time to complete your secondary applications. If you struggle to manage your time the first cycle you applied, focus more on planning ahead for this year's secondaries. You can prepare in advance by drafting drafting answers to common secondary questions, and clearing up your schedule. For more tips and strategies, check out our medical school secondaries video, link in the description. Mistake number 5 is delaying your interview prep. By the time interview season arrives, you might be feeling exhausted. However, it's essential to maintain your focus and enthusiasm during this critical phase. No matter how impressive you look on paper, interviews can make or break your entire application. Admissions committees will judge you based on how you interact with your interviewers and answer their questions. If you received interviews during your first application cycle but didn't get accepted, it indicates your interview skills were likely a limiting factor. Don't delay preparing until the last minute. Start practicing for your interviews well in advance so you have time to better develop these skills. Remember, you don't want to simply memorize all of your answers to common questions. Doing so can make your responses feel rehearsed and disingenuous. Instead, understand what the most common questions are and build a framework to answer them naturally. Having solid answers to some of the more common or difficult questions ahead of time will help your interview flow smoothly. Also, be sure to get plenty of real-world practice. Ask people you know or check out your university's career center so you can practice with mock interviews. Keep in mind, however, that these individuals may not know exactly what admissions committees are looking for or how to present you in the best light. For additional help, we have a variety of interview prep services, including mock interviews with real doctors who served on medical school admissions committees, available on our website at medschoolinsiders.com, link in the description. The next mistake that reapplicants make is keeping the same personal statement. When you reapply, whether it's during the next cycle or after a gap year, your story changes, and your personal statement needs to reflect those changes. Admissions committees can see that you're a reapplicant and will expect you to address your reapplication story in your personal statement. You'll need to address how you've changed since the last cycle and what you've learned in the process. They want to see that you've put in the effort to improve your application. Explain how these new experiences have helped shape you into someone more prepared for medical school. Keep in mind, however, that you don't want to completely change your personal statement either. Your reasons for wanting to become a physician should not be radically different from when you last applied to medical school. Completely changing your personal statement can lead admissions committees to doubt your authenticity and motivations for pursuing medicine. Another mistake that reapplicants make is having weak letters of recommendation. Strong letters of recommendation are an important component of any successful medical school application. If your letters are weak or generic and don't highlight any of your skills, they can negatively impact your application. In most cases, you won't know what your letter writers wrote about you. Therefore, you'll have to judge the strength of your letter based on the strength of your relationship with the letter writer. Reflect on the probable strength of your letters. If you're certain that your relationships with your letter writers are strong, you may not need new letters. However, if you believe that one of your letters may be generic or weak, you should consider asking for a new letter from someone, perhaps from a new experience, that you know will write a strong recommendation. The last and possibly most crippling mistake that premeds make when reapplying to medical school is trying to do everything on their own. Countless people have been in your shoes, and it's okay to ask for help. Getting advice from medical students, mentors, and tutors can make all the difference when you reapply. You want someone who is unbiased and experienced with the application process to assess your application and look for areas of improvement. Every part of your application, from your personal statement to your interview, is essential and provides admissions committee members with a clear view of who you are. It's incredibly helpful to have someone with an outside perspective take a critical look at your application from the ground up. At Med School Insiders, we've helped thousands of applicants get accepted to medical school. We know that there's no single way to approach med school applications and can help you craft a narrative that presents you in the best light. Our team of real doctors has years of experience serving on admissions committees at top medical schools and knows how to highlight your strengths as a reapplicant. We know exactly what medical schools are looking for because we've been on the other side of the table. We also pride ourselves on a systematic and tailored approach that takes every student's unique circumstances and starting point into account. You can rest assured that, unlike some other companies, you'll never receive a cookie-cutter plan. Whether you're applying for the first or the fourth time, you'll always get a customized plan built just for you. Learn more about how we can make your dreams of becoming a doctor come true at medschoolinsiders.com. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out 5 reasons premeds fail to get into medical school or this other video. Much love, and I'll see you all there.